One fact for every Pokemon game. And also this video is sponsored by Whatnot, but we'll get to that in a bit. Let's do this. Red. It is actually faster to spear in Pokemon Red over Blue, all because Nidoran has a 30% encounter rate on Route 22, while in Blue it only has a mere 5%, and Nidoran is the main Pokemon you use for the speedrun. Green. Pokemon Green was renamed to Pokemon Blue in the international release, simply because Game Freak thought it'd be more fitting for the games to align with the American flag, which has the red, white, and blue colors. Blue. We actually don't know the real release date of the Japanese version of Pokemon Blue, because originally the game was released as a mail order item from the Core magazine in Japan. So basically, whoever had the fastest shipping company got the first copy. Yellow. Originally, Pokemon Yellow was planned to be a paired game, with its counterpart being Pokemon Pink, with Clefairy as a mascot. And cool enough, the Game Boy camera gave us a glimpse of what this might have looked like, since it has a frame of Pikachu and Clefairy together. Gold. Pokemon Gold and Silver both have special borders in the Super Game Boy, which was an adapter for the Super Nintendo that allowed you to play Game Boy games on. But for some reason, Pokemon Crystal did not. It just used the gold border. Silver. Slowpoke has a unique sprite in the Japanese version of Pokemon Silver, where it's the only time it has stripes on his belly. Crystal. Pokemon Crystal was the first game to include internet access, and the way players could connect was by using a device called a mobile Game Boy adapter, which in short used the internet from their phone. And only in Japan, the GS Ball was distributed by using this service, which gave life to one of the rarest shiny Pokemon of all time, the shiny Celebi. Ruby. In the real world, rubies and sapphires are actually the same mineral, and they're called corundum. So I wonder if Kyogre and Groudon have a common ancestor that's even more super ancient. Sapphire. In 2020, a fish, yes, a real-life fish, playing Pokemon Sapphire discovered a brand new glitch, where, with certain inputs, duplicated a boulder, making the hideout puzzle unsolvable. A fish did that. What have you done? Fire Red. In both Fire Red and Leaf Green, there's a cave on Route 103 that contains no items or NPCs, and only spawns Zubats. Now, I know, at first glance, this might look like a troll by Game Freak, but actually this cave was meant to be an area to capture several Johto Pokemon, but was later scrapped in the final game. And because these Johto Pokemon were scrapped, the item berry just became impossible to obtain, since it can only be found by encountering a Shuckle that's holding one. And before we continue with the rest of the games, this video is sponsored by Whatnot. And guys, this is a deal that you don't want to miss, because hear me out. Whatnot is an app where streamers host live auctions selling Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and other collectibles. Mini Dobbs here, and yeah, think of eBay and Twitch having a baby. That is what Whatnot is. Exactly. And do you see all of this on my couch right here by my beautiful furret? Well, you can actually get this for free because Whatnot is going to give you $15 free to spend on this product right here that I'm going to sell to you guys for $15. And all you have to do is pay for shipping and handling. Yeah, you're literally getting free money just by downloading the app using our link down below. Yeah, just by clicking the link down below, you will get a free $15 to spend on whatever you want on the app, no strings attached. Well, as long as it's your first time downloading the app and making a purchase. Yeah, so even if we run out of product on our stream, you can go to other streams and use your $15 free to spend on whatever you want. Like, go buy yourself something nice. Treat yourself. But wait guys, there's more, because along with all the discounted product I'm going to sell during my live stream, we're also going to break a Pokemon booster box that is currently worth nearly $1,000. So with 36 packs, there will be 36 winners courteous of Whatnot. And from my calculations, each pack is worth nearly $30, not to mention the crazy expensive chase cards from that set. Yeah, so use my link, download Whatnot, get your free $15, and I'll see you guys on Thursday when I live stream and sell all this product and give away this booster box. Yeah, this Thursday, July 27th at 7 p.m. Central Time, American time, okay? Heck yeah, and I'll see you guys all on Whatnot for the live stream, so be sure to follow me on there. And big shout out to Whatnot for sponsoring this video. I am all about collecting Pokemon cards, so I love the sponsor. And with all of that said, let's get back into the video. Leaf Green. Up until the Let's Go games, Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green were the only main series game to not follow the red and blue color scheme. And yes, Black and White followed the red and blue color scheme with Reshiram and Zekram's tails, because they glowed red and blue. Emerald. Pokemon Battle e-reader cards were released for all the Generation 3 games, including Coliseum and Emerald. And the Emerald ones were released in random booster packs, with Copper, Bronze, Silver, and Gold being the tiers. And let me tell you, these Gold Battle e-reader cards for Emerald go for insane prices. Like, just one recently sold for 750,000 yen, which is about $5,500. Diamond. Pokemon Diamond is also the name of a famous bootleg of the game Telefang. And when I say bootleg, I mean like a fake Pokemon game that was sold in the black market. And this fake Pokemon game was released as a pair, with Pokemon Jade being the counterpart. Pearl. In the Korean versions of the Sinnoh games, the game corner slot machines were replaced with game machines, which would give the player 5 to 20 coins per day, since gambling in Korea is illegal. Platinum. According to Junichi Masuda, the name Platinum was chosen because diamonds relate to love, pearls relate to happiness, and platinum is beautiful. Heart Gold. The clear bell was originally used to summon Suicune in Pokemon Crystal, but in Heart Gold, it was repurposed to summon Ho-Oh, which basically means this item is one of the most powerful items in Pokemon, since it can summon 2 legendaries. Now that should be illegal. Soul Silver. If the player talks to the sage on World Islands before obtaining the Silver Wing, he will tell the player the legend of the World Islands. And according to this legend, Lugia is the one responsible for splitting up the islands, since originally they were all a single island that was fought over by two warring countries. And I'm going to assume these two warring countries were Johto and Kanto. Black. Long before the announcement of Pokemon Black and White, PokemonBlack.com used to be the website for a fan Pokemon game. And here's what it looked like. White. Pokemon Black and White are in different universes, like literally, since Black City is in black and White Forest is in white. Black 2. Pokemon Black 2 is technically the last Pokemon game to have the cartridge the same color as the game title. Purely coincidental though. White 2. In Pokemon Black and White 2, there are road trees in the giant chasm that are not solid, which allows the player to walk right through them. X. The name Pokemon X was used for several things before the release of the game. Like for example, Lugia was known as Pokemon X before his movie released. Or even Pokemon Crystal, it was codenamed as Pokemon X. There's even a 10th anniversary music CD called Pokemon X as well. I want to be the best that ever was. To beat all the rest, yeah, that's my cause. Electro, Diglett, Nidoran, Mankey. Shut up. Oh wait, that's me. Y. After defeating Lysander for the final time in Pokemon Y, he will try to literally unlife the character by using the ultimate weapon for the final time. While in Pokemon X, he tries to make them immortal, which is a complete 180, might I add. Omega Ruby. Between the original games, Pokemon Sapphire is the preferred game to speedrun, but with the remakes, Omega Ruby is actually the better choice. Since Team Magma are easier to defeat with Mudkip, Latios has a better special attack stat than Latios, and Groudon performs a lot better against the Elite Four. Alpha Sapphire. Due to featuring so many different languages on the back of the box of Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Game Freak was forced to release the game without any references to the cosplay Pikachu, which is pretty ridiculous. Sun. In both Pokemon Sun and Moon, Hao can actually betray you, because in a tag team battle, if he uses the upgrade Z move of Sparkling Aria, he will literally target your Pokemon, since usually the move Sparkling Aria hits every Pokemon, so it doesn't matter which person you target. Moon. Pokemon Moon is the first game to deliberately mismatch the in-game time with the real-world time, so when it's daytime in real life, it'll be nighttime in Pokemon Moon. Ultra Sun. In Ultra Sun and Moon, if you evolve Pikachu, Execute, or Cubone in Ultra Space, or even in the Ultra Ruin, which is basically an apocalyptic version of Howley City, they will evolve into their Catonian forms instead. Ultra Moon. Data miners discovered a glitch in Pokemon Ultra Sun and Moon. And to put it simply, the glitch basically allowed the user to have 100% accuracy after using the move Toxic in the same turn. And it turned out that this glitch has been present since Pokemon X and Y, and remained in Pokemon Sword and Shield. Well, until it was finally patched out, since a bunch of VGC players were exploiting it with the move Fissure. Let's Go Pikachu. In most Pokemon games, if the player loses a battle, the game describes the player as blacking out or even whiting out. But starting in the Let's Go games, the player is instead described as overwhelmed by their defeat, which honestly makes a lot more sense. Let's Go Eevee. There's a weird glitch in the Let's Go games that will cause the opponent's item to say that you used the item. Just look. And this only happens with a certain number of trainers in the game. Sword. For some weird reason, Binacle is an exclusive Pokemon while making Curry in Pokemon Sword, despite it not being a version exclusive Pokemon. Shield. Game Freak mistakenly released a Drillbur that knew the move Hydro Pump in Pokemon Shield, so technically this illegal Pokemon became legal, although it's not tradable or usable for online battles. Brilliant Diamond. Pokemon Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl determine Spinda spot patterns in reverse, meaning that Spinda from this game would have the opposite dot pattern than it would in any other game. And because of this weird coding, Spinda isn't allowed to be transferred to or from these games in Pokemon Home. Shining Pearl. Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl are literally the same game when it comes to the coding, but what sets them apart is a single flag in the game's coding that makes it either Brilliant Diamond or Shining Pearl. So if you have one of the games, you technically have both of them. Legends Arceus. Pokemon Legends Arceus is the only game where the player can complete the full Pokédex without training or using glitches, which is kind of insane. Scarlet. A trademark for Pokémon Monster Scarlet was originally filed back in 2008, and that was just 2 years before Pokemon Black and White were released, so I wonder if one of those games were originally meant to be Pokemon Scarlet. Violet. Pokemon that are transferred from Scarlet and Violet have their met location set as a distant land, which up until now was only used for Pokemon that are transferred to Pokemon Coliseum. Pokemon Stadium Zero. The Pokemon Stadium that we know wasn't the first Pokemon Stadium game. The real first Pokemon Stadium was called Pokemon Stadium, but was released only in Japan and only had 40 Pokemon available to use. How many times did I say Pokemon Stadium there? Well, I'm going to say it again. Pokemon Stadium. Pokemon Stadium fixed the notorious Gen 1 miss, which was a glitch of the games where every move had a 1 in 256 chance of missing, even moves with 100% accuracy. But funny enough, Game Freak only added one reroll, so technically the Gen 1 miss can still happen if the player rolls the 1 in 256 chance twice, which would be a 1 in 65,000 chance of happening, the ultimate Gen 1 miss. Pokemon Stadium 2. In Pokemon Stadium 2, you could transfer items to the Kanto games by using the color case and the Johto games by using the metal case. And cool enough, you could actually access Saffron City early by transferring a drink by using this method. Pokemon Box. If you fill up every box in Pokemon Box, you will be rewarded with a surfing Pikachu. Coliseum. The storage system in Pokemon Coliseum has room for 90 Pokemon, even though there are only 52 Pokemon that are available in the game, with 48 of them being Shadow Pokemon, 2 of them being starters, and the last 2 being gift Pokemon. But fun fact, it is actually possible to fill in all of the remaining slots, and all you have to do is repeatedly transfer Nakatas and evolve them in the game, since Nakata spawns 2 Pokemon when it evolves. Gale of Darkness. Despite Bonsly being a Generation 4 Pokemon, it was actually possible to battle with it in the game, and all you have to do was battle with it in the Battle Bingo cards. Battle Revolution. This is probably my favorite fact out of all the games, because I never knew about this. In Pokemon Battle Revolution, it is actually possible to encounter a trainer with a shiny outfit, and the odds of this happening was the same as a regular shiny Pokemon, which at that time was 1 out of 8,000 chance of happening. And on top of that, you can be rewarded their shiny outfit, but only if it's your first time defeating them, which makes this outfit even more rare. My Pokemon Ranch. There's an NPC named Haley that will always request Pokemon that the player doesn't have in their Pokedex for a trade. And funny enough, with this mechanic, this crazy person can request Pokemon like Mewtwo or Lugia. Dream World. Pokemon with the abilities Insomnia or Vital Spirit cannot be sent to the Dream World, which means it is impossible to see Vigoroth in this game, since Vital Spirit is the only ability it can have. Dream Radar. Pokemon Dream Radar introduced Professor Burnett, who 2 generations later in Pokemon Sun and Moon went on to become a major character, which is pretty unheard of. Pokemon Bank. Pokemon Bank services are maintained by Bridget, who was previously the host of Pokemon Box. And along with that, Bridget has been in the manga and even has her own Pokemon card, so this niche character has gotten a lot of love. Pokemon Home. For some odd reason, Pokemon Home is an unused cry for Jinx, and it sounds a lot like Jinx had a Mega Evolution. Just listen. Maybe there's a scrap Mega Jinx from back in the day. Hey you Pikachu. There is a popular urban legend that's saying Sony or PlayStation causes Pikachu to get mad. Let's try it. Sony PlayStation, Sony PlayStation. Oh, he's blushing. Sony PlayStation. Oh, he's blushing. Okay, Electric Rat, Sony PlayStation. Okay, if you add Electric Rat, he doesn't like it. Pokemon Channel. The coding that prevents Jirachi from being shiny is bugged in the European and Australian versions of Pokemon Channel, meaning that this is one of the only Pokemon games you can shiny up for a Jirachi in. Pokepark. Pokepark was the name of a real-world theme park in Japan and Taiwan in the early 2000s, although these parks and the game itself have no relation, besides using the same logo. Pokepark 2. Pokepark 2 features an item called the Steak Berry, a berry that has a foul smell and frightens off most Pokemon, and is even much like his favorite snack. And this berry is most likely based on the durian, a notoriously foul-smelling fruit that is popular in Southeast Asia. The Trading Card Game. The Japanese version of the Trading Card Game is a Game Boy game that has an infrared port built inside the cartridge. And this feature was mainly used for the Card Pop minigame, which allowed players to briefly connect with their Game Boy and receive a random card, which honestly is pretty dang cool and was ahead of its time. Play It. Each Pokemon card has a unique cry in the Pokemon Play It game, and here are some of my favorites.
Squirtle!
I'll kill you.
Dang, that last one was like 3 seconds. This Tangela might have the longest cry in Pokemon history. But yeah, they all sound super cool. The Trading Card Game Online. The online trading card game is responsible for this notorious silhouette of this unknown Pokemon, and it was later confirmed by one of the designers that it was simply used as a placeholder, and does not actually represent any Pokemon. The Trading Card Game Live. Pokemon booster packs have included code cards since the launch of the live trading card game, and these code cards are pretty clever because they act as a counterweight for foil cards, so that people can't weigh the packs and scam the system. Pinball. Pokemon Pinball is one of 23 Game Boy Color games that has a Rumble Pack, and is also one of only 3 games that are playable on the original Game Boy. Pinball Ruby and Sapphire. There are 3 e-reader cards that are considered to be the holy grail of all e-reader cards, with the 3 being a Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire demo, a cool trainer with 3 high-level unevolved starter Pokemon, and a Super Mario Bros. 4 demo. And I have no idea how much they're worth because I couldn't find any sold listings for these demo cards anywhere, so they're that rare. Puzzle League. You can unlock Mewtwo by using a very clever cheat code. You basically have to spell out Bulbasaur with the buttons, which would be B, up, left, B, A, start, A, up, and right, which spells out Bulbasaur. Puzzle Challenge. There's a secret cheat code in Pokemon Puzzle Challenge that gives you access to a near complete game of Petal de Pon, which is what the puzzle games are based on. And all you have to do to access it is simply press A 24 times and B 24 times on a title screen. And then boom, you have this really weird glitched out Petal de Pon game. Detective Pikachu. When Detective Pikachu was first announced, it was stated that the antagonist would be a blue Pikachu. And if you're wondering, this Japanese text says, the extremely rare blue Pikachu. However, no blue Pikachu ever appears in the game nor in the movie. So rip to Pikablue once again. Red Rescue Team. Porygon and Porygon 2 are version-exclusive Pokemon between the Red and Blue Rescue Teams, with Porygon only appearing in Red and Porygon 2 only appearing in Blue. But what's funny is that the upgrade item appears in both games, so Porygon 2 is easily accessible in Red Rescue Team even though it's supposed to be a version exclusive, which is kind of a fail. Blue Rescue Team. There was a demo for Blue Rescue Team that was only released in Korea, and the demo was called Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Gold Rescue Team. And fun fact, it was released for the PC instead of the Game Boy. Explorers of Time. Another fact about the Korean versions of these games is that they've included an anti-piracy feature, which can include the game crashing when visiting certain areas, and the graphics becoming all scrambled, which looks like this. Explorers of Darkness. One might think that the game title Explorers of Darkness should be called Explorers of Space instead, since both games have strong ties to Pokemon Diamond and Pearl with Dialga and Palkia. But the title actually makes a lot of sense because Dialga is the main antagonist in both games, with Primal Dialga being known as Dark Dialga in Japanese, so it really is an exploration of time and darkness. Explorers of Sky. If you own a copy of Explorers of Sky, you can actually send someone a demo of the game, and you can do this by using the Nintendo DS download play feature, which is actually pretty awesome. Blazing Adventure Squad. Keep Going Blazing Adventure Squad, Let's Go Storming Adventure Squad, and Go For It Light Adventure Squad are 3 Mystery Dungeon games that were only released in Japan. And here's some gameplay of them. Storming Adventure Squad. This was the original Let's Go game, since its Japanese name translates to Let's Go Storming Adventure Squad. Light Adventure Squad. Go For It Light Adventure Squad, along with its 2 counterparts, were the first Mystery Dungeon games to include recruitable shiny Pokemon. And these shinies even had enhanced stats, kind of like Shadow Pokemon. Gates to Infinity. In Gates to Infinity, the player can scan a real-world object with their 3DS to generate a Magnegate dungeon, which is basically a random generated dungeon that matches the colors of the scanned object, which is pretty cool. Super. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Super reveals that all the previous Mystery Dungeon games take place in the same world. Well, all of them except for the Japanese ones. With the Rescue Team games taking place on the Air Continent, the Explorer games taking place on the Grass Continent, and Gates to Infinity taking place on the Mist Continent. And if you're wondering, Super takes place on basically all of the continents, including the Sand and Mystery Continents and the Sea of Wonders. DX. Pokemon Mystery Dungeon DX has gained data of a Pokemon Camp sprite of the Substitute doll, even though it is impossible to use the move Substitute in those games. Picross. Picross MP Volume 1 was the original Picross game that featured all of Nintendo's most iconic characters, which included Pokemon. And the sprites they use are really interesting looking. Like, look at Pikachu. He's a happy fella. Pokken Tournament. Pokken Tournament was originally released as an arcade game, which makes it the only Pokemon game to start as an arcade game and then become a full-fledged game on the consoles. Pokken Tournament DX. The fighters that were previously exclusive to the arcade version of Pokken Tournament became available in Pokken Tournament DX, with the Pokemon being Darkrai, Scizor, Croagunk, and Apollyon. Ranger. The player can send a Manaphy egg to Pokemon Diamond and Pearl using the Ranger net in Pokemon Ranger. But the catch is, this can only be done once per game cartridge. Yeah, you heard that right, per game, even after the player resets their save file, which gave rise to one of the rare shiny Pokemon of all time, the Pokemon Ranger Shiny Manaphy. And I even covered it in my top 10 rare shiny Pokemon video here. Shadows of Almia. Failing to stop the sinking cargo ship is the first time the player can actually die in a Pokemon game. So this is basically what a game over screen looks like for Pokemon. And speaking of deaths, I just covered every death in Pokemon in my last video, so check that out as well. Guardian Signs. Pokemon Ranger Guardian Signs is the first game to distinguish mythical Pokemon from legendary Pokemon, because previously the term wasn't coined yet, and starting from this game they called them rare Pokemon. Rumble. A set of Pokemon Rumble trading cards were released to cross-promote the game, and cool enough, the game itself, Pokemon Rumble, is credited as the illustrator for all the cards. And let me tell you, these cards go for insane prices nowadays. Like, just as Pikachu could go upwards to $150. Rumble Blast. Pokemon Rumble Blast introduced Rusty Pokemon, which function similarly to Shadow Pokemon, but are corrupted toys that only know the move Struggle. Rumble U. Pokemon Rumble U was one of the first Wii U games to use the NFC functionality. Since special toy Pokemon figures were released, it could be scanned to unlock them in the game. And I'm not gonna lie, these toys look pretty legit. Rumble World. Pokemon Rumble World was released both as a freemium eShop game with microtransactions and as a physical retail game with everything unlockable. And with the eShop version, the player was only allowed to spend $30 because after that, they would own everything, just like the retail version. Rumble Rush. Pokemon Rumble Rush spent a longer time in alpha testing than the game being live, since it was shut down only after a year of it being released, while it was in alpha testing for roughly 2 years. Shuffle. Pokemon Shuffle has the most obtainable Pokemon than any other game, with the number totaling up to 802 Pokemon, which is pretty wild. Snap. Blockbuster stores had a special machine that allowed you to print out your pictures for Pokemon Snap, and these kiosks go for upwards of $10,000 nowadays. New Snap. New Pokemon Snap was the first video game to ever feature a rating from a Mexican rating company, and the rating it got in Mexico was an A, which is basically the same as E for everyone. Troze. Pokemon Troze is a match 4 game, and Ditto acts as a wild card that's able to match with any Pokemon. Battle Troze. The 3DS Pokemon Battle Troze console might be the rarest 3DS XL console of all time, since only 7 of them were made and distributed for the core competition. And this is what they looked like. There were 5 black ones and 2 white ones. Dash. Pokemon Dash is often regarded as the worst mainstream Pokemon game of all time. And let me know in the comments what you think about that. Is it the worst game? If not, what is the worst game? Conquest. Pokemon Conquest is set in the Ransei region, which is shaped exactly like Arceus. Duel. Pokemon Duel is based on the trading card game, but with miniature figures instead of cards. And I'm not gonna lie, this looks really fun. Too bad it flopped. Go. Pokemon Go received 5 world records during the first month of its release, and all of these records fall in the first month category, with the records being most revenue grossed by a mobile game with 206 million, most downloaded mobile game with 130 million devices, most international charts topped simultaneously for a mobile game for revenue and downloads, and fastest time to gross $100 million by a mobile game. So yeah, this game was a pretty big deal. Magikarp Jump. Most food items in Magikarp Jump are based on items from the main series games, although there is one food that is unique to Magikarp Jump, and that is a Magikarp biscuit. Smile. There are insane people out there that are actually speedrunning Pokemon Smile, which is pretty funny. Quest. Buster from the Isle of Armor and Pokemon Sword and Shield can occasionally be seen playing Pokemon Quest. Masters EX. When the game changes title from Pokemon Masters to Pokemon Masters EX, the Japanese Twitter account promoted it with a lowercase hashtag Pokemon Masters EX. And just look at it, it's really funny. Cafe Remix. There is actually a manga that is based on Cafe Remix that was only released in Japan, which is kind of random. And finally, we have Pokemon Unite. Despite the fact that the Drio has been a low-tier Pokemon in competitive battling for decades, in Pokemon Unite, it is considered to be an SS tier, which makes it one of the best. And there you go. That is one fact for every Pokemon game that I covered in this video. Because I know there are other Pokemon games out there, but hey, the rest of them are pretty niche. And yeah, with that said, I hope you guys enjoy this video. Hey, did you know I did a fact for every town in Pokemon? Yes, every single one from the Kanto games to the Paldea games to even in the spin-off games. So check that out right here. And also don't forget to subscribe and ring that bell.